We now welcome to the stage Kiersten Todt, President of Wondros, for a conversation with Harry Coker, the White House National Cyber Director, and Craig Newmark, founder of Craigslist and Craig Newmark Philanthropies.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's wonderful to be a part of this panel. Welcome, Director Harry Coker of the National Cyber Director's Office, and Craig Newmark, founder of Craigslist and Craig Newmark Philanthropies. Thank you both for being here. This panel is important for many reasons, but especially because the government and philanthropic organizations have been speaking deliberately for over 10 years about how to work together. What is the role of resources of nonprofits? How can they be resourced to really help the federal government execute strategies? And how can the nonprofit sector allocate resources to support the federal government? Your office, Harry, and your work, Craig, have a lot of different priorities and are focused on some obviously critical issues, but specifically the cyber workforce. And today we're talking about individuals, we're talking about humans and human behavior. And so we'll start really with the foundation of all of this, which is cybersecurity, which is people. And each of you has created and have developed important campaigns and efforts really focused on people and how we're engaging people in cybersecurity. So I'll start with a very broad question. I'll start with you, Harry. What role does the individual, from your perspective and from where you sit in the White House, have in cybersecurity?
Well, as you said, everything starts with people, and every individual has a responsibility. If you look at the National Cybersecurity Strategy, we talk about two big shifts, and the shift that directly applies to people is moving responsibility or rebalancing responsibility for defending cyberspace from those that are least capable to those that are most capable, big tech, federal government, and the like. But that does not absolve the individual from their responsibility to defend cyberspace. So we all have that responsibility. We all need to be aware. Just yesterday, we were in Western Pennsylvania, rural America, and we had a discussion with how cybersecurity applies to folks all over the country. Cybersecurity is not a big city problem, it's not a national problem, it's a every one of us problem, regardless of where we live or what we do for a living. It impacts every aspect of our quality of life. So individuals have a significant responsibility. What I like to say, do the right thing. That's what we have to do.
And Craig, from your perspective, what role does the individual have, both for themselves and for the country?
Yeah. We all, to the extent we can, need to protect ourselves, our families, our homes. Like on an ongoing basis, Mrs. Newmark is monitoring my mother-in-law. But beyond that, well, just like in World War II, everyone who can play a role defending the country should be doing so. My dad fought in the Pacific behind a desk, but so do I right now. My mom learned bookkeeping, so the bookkeeper could presumably pick up a rifle and head overseas. So the deal is that we all should do what we're capable of doing. When I was raised in the 50s, patriotism was a normal and expected thing, and that's what we're talking about now, patriotism as a real and vital thing.
And so when we think about patriotism and we're looking at national security, Harry, you mentioned the National Cyber Workforce and Education Strategy, and you use a term in that, digital literacy, and looking at cybersecurity awareness. And if we think about patriotism, if we think about each of our responsibility and accountability in this space, how do you look at, Harry, in this strategy, the term digital literacy? What does it look like for you, and what do you want to see it evolve into?
First, I want to touch on patriotism, since we did that, and then I'll get to digital literacy. We have a campaign that's ongoing now, Service for America. It's a sprint across the country to make us all aware of the opportunities to serve America via careers in cybersecurity, AI, and big tech. And the key there is cybersecurity enhances our economic prosperity, our technological innovation, and our national security. So you talk about patriotism, that's engulfed in cybersecurity. Now shifting to digital literacy, we do need to be clear that there's a difference. We look at the young folks nowadays and they're playing the video games and go, oh, they know cybersecurity. No, there is a difference between being app savvy and being cybersecurity savvy. Again, I'll go back to Western Pennsylvania where we met with some high school students yesterday, and we asked them how did their interest in cybersecurity get piqued. And one young person said that they were playing on their video game and it got hacked. And that's why that person wanted to get into cybersecurity, because someone had invaded that individual's space. So they're learning there's a difference between being literate in an app and video games and being literate in cybersecurity. That's one thing we have to know. The other thing is we need to reach further down the education system and teach young folks and not so young folks about cybersecurity. It's an area that's not going to lessen in terms of the threat. It's always going to be there. And part of what I'll call literacy is being aware. We need to know that that threat impacts all of us all the time. So differentiate between apps and cybersecurity. There's a huge difference.
And you make a really important point, and we were talking about this in the luncheon panel about human behavior, that individuals like to see themselves where they want to go. And if individuals at any age, whether it's young people, older people, it's elderly, it's looking at different groups, when they can see themselves in cybersecurity, not just for careers, but they can see their ability to do more, to be empowered to do more through stories. We were talking about all the scams and things that happen, and people are ashamed to talk about it. But the more we share when somebody who's playing a video game gets hacked and talk about their experience, the more we make this cultural, we have a greater opportunity for change. And I think that point in the strategy in particular is so important.
Absolutely. And you talk about these stories, and sorry, another story from Western Pennsylvania, that's top of mind. First off, when we asked those young folks, what got them, why they're interested, they wanted to serve. They have a sense of commitment of taking care of other people, themselves and others. So that was important. But a specific example was a young man who had been a chef, got tired of those 16-hour work days, and he transitioned to being a dispatcher for that county public safety system. And he recalled taking a phone call from an 80-year-old widow who had just been victimized by cyber fraud. And she lost everything that her late husband worked for. And he took that call, and he heard and felt her pain. And we can only take so much of that trauma that he took. And that's when he decided that he wanted to transition to cybersecurity so that he could help prevent that type of victimization, again, of individuals and entities that are what we call target rich and cyber poor. That 80-year-old widow who was left essentially defenseless in cyberspace. And that's what turned him around.
Goes to another point, Craig. You've been a strong proponent of cyber civil defense, and you've supported that with a lot of generous commitments. Can you explain how you define cyber civil defense? It goes to individuals who are on the other end of phones. It is how do we help build up resilience in communities?
Well, the deal is that we all are responsible for our own cybersecurity, but if you have the skills, maybe it's time to give a hand to someone else who can do something like that. So I'm working with the consortium of cyber clinics, with the public interest cybersecurity network, and with some of the existing groups of volunteers who help protect our country's infrastructure. Larger organizations may have the staff, including the IT staff, to defend themselves and also to prepare for what happens when things go wrong, resilience. And yet there's a lot of IT staffs at a lot of utilities around the country and so on who just don't have the resources to protect themselves or to recover. And so that's why I'm funding people as part of this public interest network to get the job done.
Craig, what does success look like for you when we're thinking about cyber civil defense? What are you hoping to achieve by supporting these organizations? And what would be an outcome that you would see and feel that a real impact had been made?
As an engineer, I would prefer metrics, but I don't see them possible. The idea is that everyone should feel comfortable, not helpless, in the sense that their stuff is protected, and that stuff which is on a national basis is protected. In between, that our adversaries are not going to be able to cut off our water or power. And sometimes, in the event of a natural disaster, at least they can recover reasonably quickly from that.
You make a very important point. We've had some tremendous conversations today and this morning and this afternoon about framing the risk and understanding that there's concentration of risk, understanding a little bit more of the risk landscape. But what we haven't talked a lot about is that urgency for solutions. It's how, if we understand the risk, how are we going to mobilize our country? How are we going to mobilize individuals at the community and local level to help empower individuals to do their part, to be cyber patriots, to be cyber civil defenders? Harry, you talked a little bit about the Service for America effort, which was just announced on September 4th going through October, and it's really a fantastic effort to engage everybody in service defined by helping in cybersecurity. And I think what's really valuable to this is it's opening the aperture for what an inclusive workforce looks like. It's engaging diversity of thinking. But if you could talk a little bit about the program itself and what you're hoping to achieve with it.
Our metric, and we can quantify it. Today, there are nearly 500,000 open cyber jobs in America. That number is way too large. And it's not because this great nation of ours does not have the talent. It's because we haven't sufficiently sought out talent in different areas. We haven't inspired that talent, developed it, and retained it. So part of Service America and part of what we articulate in the National Cyber Workforce and Education Strategy is to develop multiple pathways so that every American, regardless of their upbringing or where they live or their socioeconomic status, and any demographic you want to put in there, it doesn't matter. Every American needs to know that they have a pathway to make contributions to this nation via cybersecurity. Individuals do not need computer science or even engineering degrees. As a matter of fact, they don't need 4-year degrees to make a contribution. Service for America is all about creating those pathways for all of us to make a contribution to defending this nation and to, again, securing our economic prosperity.
I think what's so important about how you've laid it out as well is we often think when we're building the cyber workforce that we're talking about engineers and scientists, which are very important, sitting next to an engineer. It's critical for those roles. But we also, when we look at cybersecurity, we're looking at problem solving and building solutions. And the most impactful and effective way that we do that is through interdisciplinary approaches. And so when we're more creative in how we're attracting individuals to this space, and it goes also with different diversity of thinking, neurodiverse individuals who are now building LLMs and AI that are outpacing what machines can do, and how we're looking at including more people, I think it becomes very powerful for service. What I also think is important is you're defining service to be much broader than how we see it. And I'd like to ask both of you, because you mentioned inspire, Craig, you've talked about inform. When we're looking at informing and inspiring individuals to service, what do you think are the key elements to inspire individuals to come into cyber and to come into this service to the nation to protect it? Craig, I'll go to you.
Well, to start, we need to let people know that they're not helpless. They can all do something to protect themselves and the country. So we're announcing this program, Pause, Take 9, based on observations that if people look at something which might be wrong, that they pause for a moment and reflect on how wrong the thing might be. So that's one of the big announcements we're making today. You may have already heard about the other big announcement. Should I elaborate?
Sure, please.
Sure. About a year ago, I committed to both $100 million for cybersecurity for the country, figuring that should reach into 2026. Similarly and separately, $100 million for military families and vets. I've spent both. I'll remind people that I'm an amateur at this stuff, which is my biggest advantage, because I have permanent beginner's mind, I guess. So right now I'm contemplating and have announced another 100 for cybersecurity. My problem is that my thinking is 5 to 20 years out, and I'm 71. So at 20 years, I'm going to have to conduct due diligence via seance. And I'm going to have to start funding high bandwidth Ouija boards, or maybe I'll just haunt people. In addition, I'm considering another 100 for military families and vets, a separate issue. But the deal is to do something that matters, and then to keep doing things that matters, to repeat what's been done. For example, a lot of people here have announced really good programs, and now I'm bugging them to remind the public that they exist and to never stop.
I'll just offer that rumor has it your campaign launch film is happening at 2:50 p.m. today.
Do I have a campaign launch film? So adult.
Before break, so adult. Harry, when you think about how to inspire, I mean, you are getting into the communities through your job, you're seeing communities, schools, organizations, and you talk about some of the things that you've seen that are inspiring people for service. What do you think we need to be doing to continue this message, to inspire individuals to serve the country through the cyber workforce?
Well, one of the things is folks need to understand that cyber really is a significant threat to this country. It really is. And I don't mean to be the boogeyman, but I do mean to be realistic. The threat is real. I know FBI Director Ray made a significant announcement today about another network that was taken down, a network that was intended to do us all ill will. Similarly, in January, when we testified before a House subcommittee, and we talked about nation states going after America's critical infrastructure, not for espionage purposes. We all know nations spy. Okay, but our critical infrastructure was put at unacceptable risk, and we all need to understand that unacceptable risk means just that. If we're not inspired to defend our loved ones and our homeland based on the threats that nation states put forward towards us, then I'll be challenged to inspire us. But we also need to be inspired by the opportunities that the digital foundation brings to America and the world, frankly. Again, this digital foundation is about economic prosperity and technological innovation. So I am normally, I'm told, I'm a gloom and doom kind of guy, and I don't apologize for that. But I recognize the goodness that the internet brings forward as well. And we need to make that available, again, to every global citizen. And we can start by doing that here in America.
In underpinning of that is this resilience piece to what you've talked about. And Craig, a lot of your organizations you support, you're about activating communities in cybersecurity. Can you talk more about your approach to resilience and the role that an individual has in protecting critical infrastructure? You talk about utilities and how we need to get individuals empowered to demand more from critical infrastructure. And it's not actually a big, huge bridge that we can empower individuals at the community level. Can you talk more about your approach to that?
Well, there's two parts in a way. finding people who are good at helping others protect infrastructure. Like there's the Josh Corman, I'm the Cavalry thing. Jake Braun has something going at the University of Chicago. But the deal is that we all can play a role in reminding people at utilities and so on that they do need to play their role in protecting us. They all need to be their own champions, maybe with help and encouragement from regular people. Meaning that, well, big utilities have staffing. Most of the country, though, is covered by small utilities and other organizations, and we're going to be in the position of asking overworked IT staffs to do better and better jobs in terms of the protecting themselves. So part of this will be recommending to everyone what everyone can do to protect themselves, like measures against phishing, password managers, updating your system, protective DNS. But for the most part, we're going to be asking everyone to, in the nicest and most respectful way, to remind IT staffs that they got to do the job of protecting their own stuff. I plan to tell everyone, well, remind the IT staffs, and if they push back and resent it, and they will, you can blame Craig. And I guess I'm assuming that that'll happen, and I'm just ready for it. The deal is everyone knows what they need to do. We just need to stop feeling helpless at all and remind ourselves of what our parents or grandparents did in World War II.
We're going to open it up for questions. Before doing that, though, I think this concept of service, of giving back, you each represent and have served the nation in your unique ways. Harry, certainly through the Navy in your current role. Craig, through your work as an engineer, and now what you're giving back in the tremendous announcement today. So it's an important reminder that we really can serve in different ways, serve the nation by investing in resilience, and that the power exists in each of us. And I thank you both for the service and for your thoughtful remarks, and I think we'll have time for one or two questions if there are any from the audience. And if not, I have many, so I think I'll ask, oh, yes. I think there's a microphone.
Hi there, my name is Kaylee. I'm here for an organization. Rookie mistake. Hello, everyone. My name is Kaylee. I'm here today with an organization called Cyber Collective. We're a nonprofit that helps people understand the impact of technology and how to protect themselves online. And I just wanted to say thank you to the panel today. This is really interesting conversation to hear, and obviously we in this room totally have aligned values and why we're here today. A big part of what we do at Cyber Collective leverages mutual aid in our approach, so empowering people through solidarity to navigate these broken systems. And I just would love to hear maybe another story or two from all of your perspectives on those moments within the critical negative impact that happens, how you have been able to support people within your community, your families online.
Harry, do you want to talk about some of the work that you've gotten some great commitments from organizations with the strategy, and that might help to share some of that?
Yes, in terms of commitments from various organizations, and at the risk of sounding like the president of the Western Pennsylvania Chamber of Commerce.
You're kind of doing a great ad for everyone's going to start going to Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Pennsylvania Cybersecurity Center, right now they are partnered with 10 local high schools, teaching juniors and seniors about cybersecurity, helping them get their certifications. So they're defending and learning, earning and learning is what it's called sometimes. So that's great that they're doing that. But they have made a commitment by 2026 to expand from 10 to 69 high schools across 8 counties in Western Pennsylvania. I was flabbergasted but delighted by that goal. So that's a great way to help us. Another one, since I'm running for office there in Western Pennsylvania, Mercyhurst University in Erie just announced a dual major program for their they're students that are on the autism scale. It's a dual program, neurodiversity. Folks that have certain skills that can contribute to our safety and again, our prosperity. So, that commitment to develop that program, again, to go places that we typically don't go to recruit patriots that are capable of advancing the cause. You asked how we can inspire people. That inspires me to know that we have caring entities that are working to help us help us.
And I'll just offer, I think Mercyhurst has one of the best engagements for neurodiverse individuals, and it would be great to see more colleges really look at how to open the aperture for education, because that helps us to build out the cyber community. Craig, you've done so much work with organizations that are there to help people when they need help, and also to work with communities and building resilience. Any highlights for you in response to the question about where some of the great work is being done, where you're seeing impact?
Since there's only one of me, and barely that, I'm building a network of networks of people who can get the work done in specific areas. So like, I've asked the folks at Girls Who Code to coordinate and work with people providing education K through 12 and to provide serious cybersecurity education there. Frankly, there's a separate project through Aspen on workforce development and others. The idea is that building a network of networks, which is the only thing I know how to do.
You do it quite well.
Yes, indeed.
As you both do. We're all out of time. I want to thank both
Thank
of you
you
for your time and for your service. And congratulations on the announcement.
Yes, indeed.